First rain episode on BG Game Preview. It's kind of downpouring out here. Welcome back to BG Game Preview. I'm your host, Lucy Eisenbarth, and this week we're going to be breaking down everything going into Garrigan's second round playoff matchup versus North Union. We'll break down their win versus Kingsley Pearson and give some shout outs to the end of some seasons for some sports. Before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, go follow BG Game Preview on Instagram, as I will be posting short form content on there, and so that you never miss another upload. Sorry there was no 3 and 30 video last week. I did not have time to get one out, but I will try to get one out this week. Without further ado, let's jump right into the recap rewind of Garrigan's 57-12 win versus Kingsley Pearson. Start off this video, we are going to hit a recap rewind on Garrigan's win versus Kingsley Pearson in their round 1 playoff matchup, which they won 57-12. Garrigan went up in this game early, starting off 23-12 after the first quarter and going up 45-12 at halftime. Only scoring 6 points in the second half, Garrigan won this one 57-12. Starting off with Garrigan's team stat line for this game, senior quarterback Tate Birch completed 4 of his 9 passes for 73 yards and 1 touchdown, while also rushing for 59 yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. This game was mainly dominated by the run, with senior Ethan Marceau having 15 carries for 141 yards and 3 touchdowns. Winning receiver for the Garrigan Golden Bears was sophomore Madden Miller, a new name on the game leaders board this year for the Bears, with 1 reception for 37 yards. Leading this defense was junior Michael Joyce with 4 tackles and 1 interception on the night. Then over to Kingsley Pearson. This stat line looks a little weird because their quarterback got injured early on in the game and they had senior Easton Nissen sub in for him. He completed 9 of his 22 passes for 176 yards and 0 touchdowns, while also rushing for -2 yards and 2 touchdowns somehow. I believe he ran in these touchdowns and then had a play for negative yards towards the end of the game, which affected his stat line. A new unique thing that I haven't reviewed on BG Game Preview before, so that's pretty cool. Leading the rushing was senior Tyler Cook with 16 attempts for 23 yards and 0 touchdowns. He also led the receivers with 4 catches for 101 yards and 0 touchdowns. And leading this Kingsley Pearson defense was junior Wyatt Clation with 8.5 tackles, 1 TFL, and 1 sack last Friday. Looking over at team stats for the Golden Bears, on 41 rushing attempts, we had 435 yards and 7 rushing touchdowns while averaging 10.6 yards per carry, so averaging a first down every time we decided to run. Looking over to the defensive side of the ball, we had 42 total tackles, 7 tackles for loss, and 1 sack on the night, as well as 4 interceptions. Comparing this to Kingsley Pearson, who finished with 29 attempts for 38 rushing yards, averaging 1.3 yards per carry and 2 rushing touchdowns. And then looking at their defense, they had 49 total tackles with 1 tackle for loss and 1 sack on the night. Neither team had any forced fumbles or fumble recoveries, and Kingsley Pearson did end up with 1 interception as well. Other than that, just a solid victory for the Golden Bears. That Week 1 rematch versus Kingsley Pearson, a lot of people thought they would be tougher this time around, including myself, and they handled them again pretty well. Garrigan will move on to round 2 and play North Union this Friday night, and Kingsley Pearson's season is done for the year. With this, let's go take a look at Garrigan's opponent for Friday night, North Union Warriors. Another rematch from earlier this season. Looking at Garrigan's opponent, we're going to do a little mid-season recap going into this game for the North Union Warriors, just to see if this team has changed at all since we played them last. North Union enters this game at 5-3 with a win 69-20 over Newell Fonda, a win 54-0 on North Iowa Senior Night, a loss 42-46 to Riceville on North Union's homecoming, a canceled game versus Rockford as Rockford canceled their season, a loss 28-52 at GTRA, a loss 7-54 to the Garrigan Golden Bears, a win on West Bend Mallard Senior Night 48-12, a win versus Northwood 58-0 on North Union Senior Night, and a huge upset win last week versus GTRA for the first round of playoffs. North Union was the underdog going into that game, but they got it done. They beat North Union. North Union was the underdog going into that game, but they walked in and they beat GTRA and will play Garrigan this week at Conway Field. The question is, will that momentum be able to carry to Conway Field this Friday night? Looking at a team stat line side of things, junior Grayson Colgrove has completed 45 of his 82 passes, throwing for 696 yards and 10 touchdowns for the Warriors, while rushing for 427 yards and 12 touchdowns. Leading North Union's rushing is Draven Keeler, a senior, with 168 attempts for 1,204 yards and 19 touchdowns. Leading receiving is Cale Jones, a senior, with 19 catches for 276 yards and 2 touchdowns. And finally, leading the defense is also Cale Jones with 37 tackles and 4 interceptions on the season. Some of these names I covered in the North Union episode when they played Garrigan a couple weeks back, and they still top the season leaders for the Warriors. Looking at a team stat line, they have on 305 rushing attempts, 2,011 yards, averaging 6.6 yards per carry and 38 rushing touchdowns on the year. And then looking over at the defensive side of the ball, they have 320 tackles, 43 tackles for loss, and 10 sacks on the year, with 6 fumble recoveries and 1 forced fumble. To go along with this, they also have 6 interceptions, 4 of which are from Cale Jones himself. Overall, I think this will be a good game and a good matchup. But that main question that I mentioned earlier is that will that momentum carry over from the GTRA win to this game versus Garrigan, and will they be able to keep the streak going and maybe keep their season alive? North Union is a pretty well-rounded team while predominantly being on the rushing side of the ball, as that is, from a stat line side of things, that seems to be their main aspect of their game, similar to Garrigan. Their quarterback seems to be able to scramble out of the pocket and make some plays when he can while passing the rock. I think every team that Garrigan will play in the playoffs will be an improved version of what we've seen from previous weeks in the season if it is a rematch like we saw from Kingsley Pearson last week. I think that Kingsley Pearson team was better than the team that we played in week 1, and I think that this North Union team is a better team than when we played them either week 6 or 7, I do not remember. Unfortunately, I do not think that North Union will be able to carry that momentum from the GTRA game to now, and I do think that Garrigan will win this one. Although North Union has a very well-rounded offense, I do not believe that they will be able to overcome this Garrigan defense, as we've seen that it is a powerhouse in this 8-man conference. You'll get teams like Kingsley Pearson who have great offenses, and they just can't put up points versus Garrigan. The thing that might help out North Union in this game is playing a really solid defense and trying to limit Garrigan's offense. That's a huge ask from this North Union offense, and it's a huge ask for any team, really, as Garrigan's offense is very high functioning and very, very efficient. If they can do that, then I believe that North Union has a shot of potentially winning this game and pulling off another upset versus the number 1 seed. Unfortunately, I do not think that this will be the case, and I think Garrigan is going to take the win 54-14 versus North Union this week. It will be a very good matchup, and it will be played on October 31st, which is this Friday on Halloween, so it will be a very fun game to attend and or watch. Garrigan and North Union do have a little bit of a rivalry, which fuels a lot of this game, which is why it will be a big deal, especially since it's playoffs and you're fighting to stay alive and go further potentially to make the dome. I do think Garrigan comes out with the win, and they will move on to round 3 of the playoffs next week, which would be the last home game for Garrigan, as Garrigan should host all their home games since they are the number 1 overall seed, and North Union season will come to an end after this week. That's the end of the football segment for this episode of BG Game Preview, and before we end off this video, I wanted to give a shout out to some of the sports that have already finished their seasons for the year. Starting off with the Garrigan volleyball team, I wanted to give a shout out to them for a strong finish for the year. They got a huge win in regionals versus North Union 3-1, and then went on to play St. Ansgar, which they took a 3-0 loss to on St. Ansgar's home court. St. Ansgar is the number 1 overall seed, and they are just a really tough, really good team, so props to them for putting up the fight. Congrats on the end of the season, and thank you, seniors, for all that you've done for your team. The other shout out I want to give is to the Garrigan cross country teams, both girls and boys, for great finishes to the year, and a huge congratulations to state qualifier Julia Swift, who qualified individually at the meet at Nyack last Thursday. I interviewed Julia after this race, so if you have not watched that video, it is on both my Instagram and YouTube pages, so you can go check that out. A huge congrats to her, and she runs this Saturday, November 1st, at Lakeside Municipal Golf Course in Fort Dodge. We're all cheering for you, Julia, and go represent Garrigan well. I also want to give a shout out to the rest of the cross-country teams, both girls and boys, for good finishes. I know a lot of people PR'd at the last meet. Sorry I do not have those standings and times. I do not know where to find those. So, for next year, if you'd like to let me know, leave a comment down below and you can tell me where to find those times and standings. I think almost everyone on the girls' cross-country team PR'd, and I know that Caden Buckner for the boys' cross-country PR'd as well. Congrats on a great end of the season for the cross-country teams. Finally, to end off this video, I wanted to give a huge congratulations to the Bishop Garrigan competition cheer team for their win at the Triton Challenge. They competed last Sunday and finished first place in this challenge and will compete at State Cheer. They'll compete this Saturday, November 1st in Des Moines. A huge congratulations and good luck to them as they compete this Saturday. There's one final shout out I want to give, and it is to some of the Bishop Garrigan Golden Bear dancers. 4 of the Garrigan dancers went and competed at State Solos last Thursday in Pella, last Friday in Pella. These were Avery Culbertson, Addison Lubenthal, Delaney Fessler-Arndorfer, and Roseanne Curtis-Rickey. I want to give a congratulations to Addie Lubenthal for her D2 rating, congratulations to Roseanne and Avery for their Division 1 ratings, and a huge congratulations to Delaney Fessler for her top 10 rating at State Solos. She will go on to compete at the state competition in December. I do not know the date. If I find it, I'll put it here or somewhere. Congrats to them on this solo dance achievement. With that, that is the end of this week's episode of BG Game Preview. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below if there's anything I missed or anything you want to see me cover. After football season is all over and wrapped up, I will be doing basketball, both girls and guys, and I will also be doing an end-of-the-year recap for football, volleyball, and all of the other things with an outtakes video and just to kind of wrap up and end off all of the fall sports. Without further ado, this is Lucy Eisenbarth signing off on BG Game Preview.